everybody. Welcome to another Fundamental Games Tabletop Simulator Training session. So today we're just going to jump into an empty table and teach you a little bit of some of the interface tricks of how to make your own table and how to kind of modify and make it unique to you. So I've done a couple of these types of things before, but let's say today we want to make a custom square table. And you can import any image off your computer onto here and it'll automatically resize. Sometimes that'll compress images, so I prefer to have something that's already designed to be square or some kind of completely blank image. So I'm just going to pop in here and throw a file on here just to get us going. Then we'll teach you a little bit about how to apply things to the table. So let's say we're going to put on a red textured background. Alright, so what you do is you apply the image and you can import it by cloud or by regular, and you end up with your image, and depending on your definition of it, it could look good or bad. So this time it looks a bit grainy, but it'll do what we need it to do. So just getting your tabletop set up, you could do it with a regular tabletop that the game already has, but I always like to add something unique to any game I create. Alright, so what are we going to teach you today? Well, let's see. First we'll say, and again, you could design your whole game board on some kind of graphic designer and just import it if you have the right dimensions, but I just wanted to teach you about how to use it right in the game. So let's say we want to teach you how to make a box. And so the reason this might be useful is, let's say that we have a card game that we made. So we just have a standard deck of cards here, and some games are very specific about where a deck should be. So you may want to have a box directly on your tabletop simulator game about where the deck goes, but you also may want to have a certain layout that cards always go in, and maybe your layout is so important to your game structure. Maybe you have a very specific way that you want players to play your game. So we're going to just make a mock setup of how a game could look. So let's say that the game I create looks like this for 2 players. There's a player that faces this way and a player faces this way, and for some reason this card here has a special impact on the game before they can go to this card. And so you want a way to reflect that in your tabletop simulator. It's a bit easier in real life to teach people things, but on tabletop simulator people expect your basic game to already be set up. So I might grab here in the vector paint section, I will grab the box, and you'll see here there's a little white line that follows this box maker around, or this paintbrush, and that's the starting point of the box that you make. So I want to make sure that I start it to the side here. I'll hold my left mouse button and I'll drag and grow my rectangle to become the same size there. So now I've got a frame around this card. And I could do the same thing with each box or each card and just kind of create myself a framework so that I've got that frame already built in. You don't have to do it this way, but some people like to have a visual representation. And you can make it very precise. You can really make the lines connect and everything, but I'm just trying to do a quick example for you of what you could do. So it's not going to be precise. But there we go. We just keep on clicking, dragging, going a frame around each card. And again, not precise, but you get the picture of what it would do. And then when you zoom out, you get to see that whole picture. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you, is how to make permanent changes to your tabletop just by this little drawing tool. And you could also do it with a circle. So maybe you have a special zone over here that you put tokens in, or whatnot. Or maybe you want to have a line here. Maybe the circle is shared by certain people, so you can grab the line tool and again click and drag, and you've got different effects there. If you make something and you need to delete it, there is an eraser tool here, so you can grab that eraser and just click on anything that you made, and sometimes it helps to zoom and it'll just delete it entirely. So we could delete all that, but we're not going to. And you can change the color too. So before you draw your box, maybe you want it to be identified by colors. Maybe you wanted to have a green box. So you can apply that, and then I could make a green zone here and here. Maybe the green zone has some special effect. And then maybe red zone might not turn out so well, but maybe I have a yellow zone. So then I could do the same thing over here. This player is yellow, so we give them a yellow zone. And so you just really make your game unique and visual to anybody that's playing it. Or like I said, you can do it right on the tabletop image that you install. So next up, I thought I would teach you about text. Drawing on the table is useful as well. And sometimes it's more useful to do it right in Tabletop Simulator than it is to do it on your graphic designer, because you don't know exactly how well the font is going to show up, what size, and maybe you just want to be able to edit it at any time. So let's say here we're going to write, we'll trash that. We'll zoom in a bit. So the key to writing is it will always center. So you want to have this little thing here in the center of where you want your words to be centered. So if I put it over here and I start typing, the longer I type, the more off key it seems to be. So I can delete any of that just by going over here and clicking trash. So let's say I go here and I want to type in player 1. And maybe I want player 1 to be yellow, so just like before, I can go in and I can adjust the color as well. So there we go, player 1 is yellow. And then I might want to go on this side, and if you rotate the board, you could put it opposite so that player 2 does face the other way. But here we'll go over here, and we'll change it to green, and we'll call it player, whoops. And you can go back in and re-edit any words that you type, but we'll call it player 2. So there you go. We've got some words on the screen there, and whoops, not sure why my zoom tool stopped working. Oh, there we go. Not sure what I did there. Whoops. There. Okay. So there we go. We got player 1, player 2, and maybe I want to name some other parts as well. So maybe I want to name this box here for player 2. I want to call this the draw, and maybe I want to call this the trash. Not sure what those zones mean, but if maybe those are the names in your thing. And again, you could rotate around the world here using the arrow keys. You can rotate all the way around your board. Using the scroll and the mouse, you can zoom in and zoom out. And I use A, W, S, and D to kind of pan around the board here, so that really helps you get things going. And so I might do the same thing here. I might go back in here, have my draw box, and have my discard box. So whatever those do, there you go. You've quickly created a play session there. All right, what else can I teach you real quick on here? Don't want to keep this too long, but we have drawing, demonstrating lines, squares, and circles, sure. Randomizing cards is another good one. So let's take a look at that. So sometimes when you have your game, you want it all set up like this, but let's say you were playing with a randomized deck and you want every game to have the players having different cards. So you don't want them to always have the 8 of diamonds or the 7 of hearts or the king of hearts. So we're going to flip these over just to show you how this works. So if I were to save this, we'll save this as demo, save. So I save the game there, and let's say I want to, if I close this game, and I go back into it, you're going to see that it will come up as all the same cards in the same spot. So just like I saved it, the cards will be there. So what I want to do is go into zone, and I want to click the randomize option, and I can make a giant box of everything that's going to turn random with everything else in that same box. So all of these cards here share the same deck. I'm going to say yes, I want to randomize those cards. Oh, sorry, we'll go back in. So we're going to randomize those cards. go back to our main pointer. So what we'll do is we will then save this game so that random option is saved, and we're going to restart the game. So I'm going to go to Games, Demo, and I'm going to load demo. So, sorry, first we'll look at our cards. So 1, 2, 3. We're going to load demo, and we're going to see that randomizer should give me a whole new set of cards. It'll actually ask me first, do I want to randomize them? Yes. So now each player has different cards. So every time you play the game, that randomizer will reset the deck, these face down cards, and these cards in their hand, anything that I selected. If you wanted the cards to be separated in a certain way and the only thing random is the deck, then you could have these preset to stay, and you could actually just delete that random zone and just have the deck randomized, because maybe there's certain cards that you want players to have. So now if I were to save this and restart the game, only the deck would be randomized, and you can delete a random zone at any time. So that is the random zone I wanted to teach you, which is very valuable in any tabletop card games that you create. All right, and then the last thing I'll teach you about is snapping grids. So what I'm going to do is grab these cards and throw them all in the deck here. Quick trick as we talk about it: if I want to group a bunch of cards together, I can click drag, you see they all get highlighted, and then I can press G to group them together, and I can press F to flip them. So I could just group and flip, and get all this stuff back together. So there we go, we've got the main deck back together. Now what I want to do is create a way that cards will automatically gravitate towards these zones here. So you see here on the bottom there's something called point, and there's a magnet and a rotate snap. So we're going to grab the snap function, and we're going to drop a point here, a point here, a point here, and a point here. So what's going to happen is now anytime a card gets dragged over this area, it will naturally snap. If you're close enough to that point, it'll snap to that center of the green dot. So there you go there, we've got that all centered. And I might want to do the same thing here. But the thing to remember is if you have a regular snap point, it's always going to flip the card towards you. So what I might want to do here is rotate the snap point instead. And I can, let me just double check something here. To rotate the snap point there, oh, that's what I was supposed to do. Okay, so to rotate the snap point, if you scroll in here, if I grab this card here and put it on, it's still the regular way. So what I want to do is click on rotate snap, and I want to actually, when you're above it, you can click it, click the little arrows, and it'll rotate it that many degrees. So you can see as I click it, that little arrow turns. So now when I put this 3 on there, it's actually going to rotate to match up with that. And you don't notice it much with these kind of cards because they're symmetrical, but with asymmetrical cards that have images and text on the bottom type of thing, you may want it to face the other opponent so they can read their cards and they're not upside down. So that's what snap grids are. So just a regular magnet snap, that just puts everything positioned towards you, the main user. Whereas if you use the rotate, no matter who places the card there, it'll rotate towards that player. And that's probably the preference that you want if you're making a grid for a 2-player game. So there you have it, a few more tips and tricks for Tabletop Simulator. We taught you a little bit about drawing, taught you a little bit about shapes, and you can change those to colors. We taught you a little bit about randomization of decks and zones. Taught you a little bit about text. So the most awesomest game, can't even spell that, not so awesome anymore. And you can actually, there's a text increase and decrease as well, so I could make that really, really big if I wanted to, or really, really small. Just remember how many times you click so that if you're trying to make text the same size, there's not an actual font size button, so you have to know how many times you clicked to keep them equal. and then we taught you about the points. So there's lots of other things you can learn on here. You can learn it online through different rule guides as well, but sometimes it's nice just to get a live visual of how the stuff works. So hopefully you've enjoyed a little bit more about tabletop simulator tricks, and good luck, have fun making your games. And if you ever want some one-on-one advice, you're welcome to send me a message or an email, and I always have fun trying to help people build their games, or even building simple card games for them so they can play their own games online. Have a great day.